Hello, welcome to my channel, Devon Rex for Art here. Today I'm doing a flip through of this journal that I created for hashtag Makers Creative Collab, a video hop hosted by PM Artist Studio. So there's going to be different videos being made, and the theme for this month, July 2022, is Patterns at Play. So after my video, there'll be a link to the next video in the hop. So check out all the awesome videos. And this is my first month participating. Like I said, the theme for this month is patterns at play. And what I was thinking about, what inspired me was Zentangle patterns. So I do like to make Zentangle patterns. And in the past, I have done some hand carved stamps using erasers. And I did this pattern called Goots, and this pattern, I don't remember what it's called, but I've done that in the past, so I thought it would be cool to make some bigger stamps to use on the jelly plate. And I had ordered these carving blocks from Amazon, and I hadn't used them yet. I just used simple carving tools from Stamping Up that I got at a yard sale. I don't think these are available anymore, but I know Speedball does has some tools if you want to give a stamp carving a try. And this isn't a process video. I will be talking about different things I did, but I will upload a process with some of the highlights, some of the jelly prints, maybe some of the stamp carving, just a little bit of this and that. It won't be the whole making of the journal because it was quite involved. It took quite a bit of time. So I decided to use a cohesive color scheme of blues and greens and some gold, and I used quite a bit of Payne's gray to tone things down, mute things a bit. And as I didn't know exactly what my theme would be until I started playing, and I found that I ended up doing sort of an ancient alien folio inspired by some of these hand carved stamps. So this stamp is inspired by the Zentangle called A-frame. That one was pretty easy to carve. This one was a little bit more difficult. This one was inspired by Hypnotic. This little one was inspired by Asian fans. And the nice thing when you do like single units is you can combine them in different ways to make different patterns, which you'll see in this book in a moment. And then I did these two little triangular ones, and I tried to do them the same size so I could combine them in patterns. And this one, I don't recall the name, Zentangle, that inspired it. And then I had some leftover pieces. I just glued them on a piece of cardboard. So let's get to it. So here you can see that Asian fan repeating in different ways to cause different patterns. Here it's more of an undulation, and then here I kind of did them back to back to make sort of like an eye shape. I put a little jewel on the edge here. I used some elastic gold thread to make a closure, and I reinforced the closure with these little magnets, just some stick-on magnets. And right away when you open up, you see these symbols. Because I also thought when I was doing this, when you think about writing and language, that's all part of patterns as well. We recognize the patterns, and that's how we interpret what the meaning is. So this stencil is from Patty Tully Parish, and there's no meanings to these. They're just random symbols, and I just like them a lot. So I used the stencil with some embellishment mousse to give it some dimension, and I grunged it up. And here you open this up, and we have the A-frame in the background on both sides, and we have this cool eye, which was a laser transfer of one of PM Artist Studio's laser prints. And then I kind of grunged it up a bit. And here we have the Hypnotic stamp in the background. So I used the jelly plate, and then I did do extra stamping on top. And you can see here I combined them so that all the circles were together, and that made one kind of pattern. Later in the book you'll see they're more random. It creates a different pattern. Here this pattern of this little simple stamp is different than the front cover. So when you have individual units, you can create your own patterns. And then I made this little card using, I did some jelly plating on a sheet of business cards, like an Avery sheet cardstock. They weren't stickers, they were actually business cards. And the background is with some alcohol inks. And then I added a embossing powder to the stamps, and I drew a little eye in the middle. So that's our little insert. And again, I just scrunched up everything around. And here we've got more of a blue page, and we've got repeating patterns of this sort of surfboard. This background pattern is actually from a shelf liner I got at the dollar store. And then this black squiggles, that is a technique I learned from Robin McClendon, where she used fabric paint on the jelly plate to just kind of do a scripting, and then you smush down your paper. And then when I put the gold on top, it really highlighted the sort of organic feel of that. So I really enjoy that, and you can feel it's like cool texture. And then I used Patty's stencils with some expanding mousse to give sort of this crusty looking symbol. And then here we're going to see lots of repetition. So we see that hypnotic stamp in the background. And then here I actually used a magazine image transfer to put on the, like a water droplet. And then there's those triangles, like off stamping paper I used as like a little belly band to hold in this little booklet. There's that, more of that technique there. And this booklet, again, was using the business cards. I just jelly plated the whole sheet and then added some of those stenciled symbols, grunged it up. And then the other side is that Asian fan stamp, and I used some washi tape to put it all together. This next page here, so we have sort of different patterns, but we have sort of a reflection of form. This is a stencil from PM Artist Studios, this little scripty, and I use that, like, I had a strip of it as well to do the scripting with the darker embellishment mousse, because that could be a language just because we don't recognize it. And then I use those triangles all along the edges, A-frame. So a lot of repetition. And there's that sort of that dumbbell one. This inner page here, this was done with alcohol inks on the jelly plate. So greens, blues. And then I used alcohol lift ink to use my triangular stamps to remove some of the alcohol ink. And you can see I alternated the different triangles to make a unique pattern. And then we see that other stamp here, this one, that one there. As long as you wipe your stamps right away, you can use them with acrylic ink, but this was with alcohol ink. And then more of those triangles. So a lot of repetition. You can see I used just a regular pamphlet stitch to attach the papers. The cover was with a mixed media paper, and the inner papers are just copy paper, cardstock, 8x10, and then I cut it down, or I guess 8.5 by 11, and then it's cut to 8x10, the same shape as my 8x10 plate. But then some of the prints were done with my 5x7 plate. So here I used different things to make patterns. So this is the shelf liner. This circle was done with this dish rack, and I went back and forth on the jelly plate to make that pattern. And then I used a stencil with some stencil butter, that gold champagne stencil butter, to put in the pattern. And then a lot of shading. I used either Posca pen or like black Posca, or I used Inktense pencils to add shading and depth to it, and inking edges or putting paint on the edges. And then here we have, this was sort of a leftover piece that had lots of different patterns on it. And I collaged that triangle there, this triangle strip, added more stamping, made these little doors from the business cards. And there's some of the off stamping when I did the alcohol ink print. So that's where it kind of went. And it's kind of more of a chaos here. It's not as patterned. And I felt like this little bit of jelly print looked kind of like a landscape, maybe ancient ruins. You can see that A-frame pattern there. More of that hypnotic stamp in the background and more of that fabric paint technique, and then highlighted with some gold. And then I made a little pocket, and I repeated the hypnotic stamp on the pocket using some embossing powder. And then in the pocket we have another business card, little booklet. This time I wrapped it in this magic mesh. I don't know if you remember from the scrapbooking days. There's this magic mesh. It's like self-sticky, so it's, you can just reuse it. I'm just using bits and pieces glued together to make like a little booklet. And we have that same, so this blue was obviously a 8x10, as was this one, but I liked how they work together. You can see that same sort of surfboard shape. That's another stencil, I think, from Patty Tully Parish. And then this little stencil here is from, it's an ATC size. I think it's Orbs or something from PM Artist Studios. And I used some stencil butter and some embellishment mousse. So it's very, it's not really a pattern at all. It's more random. But it's nice to contrast patterns with irregular things, I think. And then we're getting near the end. Here we have just leftover crusty bits from that stencil, the one with the circles. This one here, I just took the stencil and plopped it down back on the jelly plate, and then I picked up the crusty bits. Maybe this is an ancient map of their civilization. I don't know. Just I just had fun. I like watching those ancient alien shows, and to me it's interesting to think about things like that. All right, and then in the back we have more of that hypnotic. And see here, instead of having all the centers, all the circles centered like that to make that one pattern, this one is more of a random. So I like how that looks. So that was lots of fun. I hope you enjoyed my little flip through, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video hop. Like I said before, I'll try to post a highlight process video with some of the jelly printing and maybe some of the stamp carving. We'll see what gets edited. I hope you have fun. Please like, subscribe, and share, and enjoy the rest of the hop. Follow the link to the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.